Cool. Hi, everyone. I hope you've been having a really great time watching all of our sessions. It's been really humbling to hear from some amazing speakers so far. I am beyond excited to have Raja here with me today. Raja is the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at Mastercard, and he's also the president of the healthcare division there. But even more than that, Raja and I were talking briefly about what we've been doing during our COVID time. And while I have been trying not to gain weight, Raja has written a book and decided to learn Spanish. And so, Raja, we're going to run the session today in Spanish. I hope you're okay with that.
I'm not yet okay, but I'll attempt. Absolutely. Yo trato.
Absolutely. Raja, just tell us first, how's it been from a personal standpoint to have all this time with your family? I know that typically you travel, right? You commute into work from a different state and you fly in and you fly out. So how's life been?
I would say that it started with a little bit of apprehension, but I got used to it very quickly, and now I'm enjoying it thoroughly. So, I think I'm discovering a lot of things right now. Like, the lack of commuting saves you so much of time. The lack of traveling actually makes things so much more efficient. Suddenly I find that I got a lot of time, which is really good. So I'm using it to connect with the people on the team, which is very important, reaching out to some of our clients. And of course, I have finished the first draft of my book on the future of marketing. And I have finished level 1 of Spanish language learning. So I still have 3 more levels to go before I can speak with you. Maybe the next one we can do this kind of a session only in Spanish. So
I learned
Espanol.
There you go. I learned Spanish watching soap operas, so I think my level is probably around where you are right now. So, Raja, you're writing this book about the future of marketing. I'm just curious, first and foremost, how has that book changed in the last few weeks? Has it changed at all, or did you see this coming all along?
No. See, I have certainly anticipated that the world will get more and more riskier. With that anticipation, 3 years back at Mastercard, I formed a risk management function within marketing. So the way I looked at it, marketing has to deal with reputational risk. It has to deal with consumer privacy risk, the data security risk. You got financial risk. You got a whole bunch of risks that as marketers you look at, which get accentuated during periods of various crises and various events around the world. We never anticipated something of the magnitude of COVID-19. But the good thing is we had all the building blocks in place. And my ex-CFO, I moved her into the role of head of risk management, and she did a whole heat map of the risks and all. And we put all the building blocks in place so that if a crisis or when a crisis would materialize, we would immediately move into a crisis mode without missing a beat. That has really stood us in excellent stead. Now, the concepts are all exactly the same, whether you're in a crisis mode or not in a crisis mode. But what happens is the way you manifest the concepts changes based on the context. And if the context is one of crisis, the manifestation of your principles has to be adjusted accordingly. So the book is very based on principles and how marketing will take shape in future. So COVID actually was stress testing some of my hypotheses, and I feel pretty pleased about it.
Were there any things that have happened in the last few weeks that you feel have really humbled you as a marketer? Because I'm sure that you were able to foresee a lot of these things, but what has been humbling in the last few weeks?
See, the first one I would say, when a crisis of this magnitude happens, and when people all around you are losing jobs or they're being furloughed, that's a very scary experience for your people. They don't know when it's going to be their turn next, when they're going to lose their job. And that's a horrible sense of uncertainty for anyone to live the day through or live through the day. And so at that point in time, as a company, we took the conscious decision that nobody will be laid off or furloughed within the company Mastercard because of COVID this year. Absolutely not. So actually our CEO went And he came in front of all the employees and then announced this in what do you call, webcast. And when that was made, you should have seen the kind of outpouring of people's gratitude, of their feelings of peace of mind, thankfulness, a relief, etc. I think that was probably the most humbling experience for me to start with. It's unbelievable. It's extremely gratifying to see that your people in the company don't have to really be in that kind of an uncertain situation. It's not that we don't have any stress that we have to go through from a financials perspective, but we said the last thing we have to go to will be people, not the first thing. So that was one thing which is truly humbling. The other thing I would say during this COVID is I would say the humbling experiences were not from a professional perspective, but they were at a human level. So one of my classmates from my MBA days, very good student, and he just recently, he used to be in Atlanta, and he was affected by COVID, and sadly he passed away.
Oh, no.
When something like that happens to somebody who you know very well, it brings the reality so close to home. It's a different level of appreciation of the situation than merely reading in newspapers or watching videos and social media, etc. The last thing I would say is, I mentor one of the CMOs of a company. She's an African American, and she was part of my team in one of my earlier companies. So I'm very good friends with her and her husband. And when they were sharing what they were going through with this whole aspect, the racial aggravation that was happening in this country, and what kind of feelings they were going through, what kind of insecurities they have, and what kind of fears they have for their children and for themselves, their own safety, etc. That's very humbling. You say, look, you think that the world is such a fantastic place, everything is hunky-dory. But again, like I said, when it happens to somebody close to you, somebody you know, then you can live that reality, even though it is a secondary living. It hits hard. It hits very hard. I think those are the kind of humbling experiences which will tell you, there are more fundamental and basic issues that we have to fix. And it is not just about your profession, but it's about humanity and it's about well-being of everyone. So
and
I would say those.
In the last week, we've also had a big movement against immigrants, which both of us are originally immigrants to this country. And so that was actually one of those moments where I guess this year became even more emotional and personal, at least for me, because I actually came into the country and started the company and started to create jobs in this country on one of the visas that is currently banned. So it's been a humbling year for all of us.
In fact, my nephew, my sister's son, he's a biomedical engineer, and he has been working in this country for a number of years. He studied his post-graduation here, and a very bright guy, extremely competent, and he was an honest taxpayer. And he had to leave the country a few days back just because he didn't get the renewal of his visa. And you then wonder, you say, like, what's wrong? Here is a trained talent who is, working his tail off, contributing to the economy, and paying his taxes very sincerely. You evict those kind of people. So there's something grossly wrong with the system. And to your point, I'm a beneficiary too. I came just like you into this country as an immigrant. And now, yes, I'm a citizen for the last 10 years and last 14 years. But then I had been given that opportunity. And it would have been a sad thing, either for me not to get the opportunity or for the other folks like me to be sort of who are already here to be sent back to wherever they're coming from. It needs a major reset.
We don't talk enough about the fact that immigrants also add to the diversity of companies and the diversity of cultures, just the diversity of opinions in any community. So I think in the interest of that, it makes sense to continue amplifying those voices around us. But I wanted to switch gears just a little, because one of the things that I would say, I would always use this word to describe you, is authentic. You always show up and lead with your values, and it comes through in every single interaction with you. And I think that also comes through in the way the Mastercard brand has been showing up. And I know that you're passionate about just authentic marketing and making sure that you're putting your most authentic self as a company in front of your consumers, investors, employees. I'm curious, what does that mean to you, and how has that led the way in the last few weeks?
See, firstly, uh, it's very critical that as an individual and as a brand, you have a set of defined values and principles you live by. And you really have to live those values day in and day out. And your brand has to live those values day in and day out. Your voice has to be genuine. It has to be sincere. It has to be truthful. It may or may not be in agreement with the popular opinion, but you have to be truthful to yourself. Your brand has to be truthful to itself. If you try to fake, put on pretenses, it's going to backfire. People are not idiots. They see through you from a mile away. They see through brands, they see through individuals from a mile away. If people are making statements or if brands are creating campaigns that are politically correct, and you are saying it because you are expected to say that, people will see through it. They say they're going through motions. That's not how it has to be, right? And secondly, people don't want you to just talk. You have to really act. So you have to back your words by action, and that's something which is very critical. And the question is, are brands doing it? And if I see COVID-19 situation over the last few weeks, there was an interesting compilation on YouTube that somebody has forwarded to me, and I saw it. Like all the brands looking exactly identical to each other, very similar to each other, right? The same visuals, the same talk of what do you call healthcare work, frontline workers, the same piano background, the same words, etc., etc. Then you wonder, why are we even talking, right? So in fact, I just had a few principles that we said we will follow in the company. Number one, don't go dark because your consumers expect you to be present. Number two, don't try to exploit or gouge, or don't be opportunistic. These are the times when your customers and consumers are vulnerable. Don't exploit their vulnerability. I was actually a victim of one such thing during this time. I was buying a iPad stand from an online retailer, a very well-known online retailer. It was $61. The stand price was. I said, okay, that's good. Okay, fine. I said, let me go and buy it. When I went to checkout, it says shipping costs are $211. 3.5 times the price of the iPad stand was the shipping. I said, this is like exploitation, right? And they knew that there was no alternative. And if I'm desperate, I'll buy it. I was desperate, so I bought it. So they have a short-term gain, but that's the end of the trust that I have with the brand. That's the end of any loyalty if I had anything to the brand. And I'd always look for something else now. I'll say, this is a brand I'll not touch with a barge pole. Now, these are the times your character shows through. If you as a brand are pursuing short-term profits and compromise your integrity and compromise your values, that is going to erode that trust. On the other hand, if you go to your customers or your clients, be truthful to them, be there with an attitude of service. Don't go there to sell something to them. There is a time to sell, there is a time to serve. This is the time to serve. Say, hey, I'm here for you. Anything I can do for you, just let me know. Here is my number, middle of the night, don't worry, call me. It makes a difference. But don't do it as a lip service, because if they do call you in the middle of the night, you better wake up and take the call and solve the problem. Otherwise, don't even make the commitment. So that's one kind of a thing. The third thing we said is, like, don't fall into this trap of sea of sameness or political correctness. If you feel for it genuinely, say it, but say it in the voice of your brand. If you don't have anything to say, shut up. Don't just say don't make a noise for the sake of making noise, because you're expected to make the noise. Noise will just not pay you back. But on the other hand, if you are saying something truthfully, honestly, properly, do it, but do it in a representation of your brand, which means your voice has to stand out for what your brand is. So this is how we sort of, we started approaching the whole thing. And so far, we are pretty fine about it. And it's been a very a great opportunity to teach the team as well of how to navigate this kind of times for the future, because honestly, this is not going to be the last of its kind crisis. Many will come. It's a question of when.
I agree. There have been quite a few crises though this year, just all coming one after the other. And I remember I was talking to Jeff Immelt, who used to be the CEO of GE, and he said, if I have one advice for you, is just brace yourself, because this thing is going to come at you in waves. And now I look back and I think, oh my God, was he right? There's been waves and waves. You mentioned that if you have something genuine to say it, and if you don't, shut up. I think it's a really important point, and I agree that sea of sameness is more noise than anything else. That being said, though, I feel like another one of the trends this year is this massive call to action for companies to stand up and say something and come out, right, in support of Black Lives Matter and different I guess initiatives that the consumers have been passionate about. So I'm curious, as the CMO of Mastercard, what do you feel like you are personally responsible for when it comes to your consumers and all their different beliefs and opinions? And how do you then decide what the company should come out in support of? And then in general, do you believe that there's something that other CMOs should also do or not do when it comes to what they say versus not?
So firstly, if you as a brand have either nothing to say or nothing to stand up for, you have to examine the purpose of your existence. Do you have a brand purpose? What is your brand's North Star? You need to be very clear about it, right? And honestly, in this day and age, you cannot dissociate social purpose or social good from the business good. They have to coexist, right? As marketers, for example, we have got a tremendous amount of clout. We have access to resources. We have money. Now, in fact, if I look at, say, WFA, which is the World Federation of Advertisers, and the membership of that collectively spends about $1.2 trillion of marketing money every single year. That's a humongous amount of money. If it is channelized in a proper way, it can really make a huge positive difference while also benefiting the brands and meeting the company objectives. They're not mutually exclusive. So what I would say is, first and foremost, you need to have a purpose. And the purpose is not a fashion, and it is not a trend. The purpose is long-term. The purpose is like your North Star. It is steady, and you pursue it steadily, number one. Number two, you can follow many causes. People confuse between cause marketing and purpose drivenness. They're not the same. Cause is a tangible initiative that you're following to do some good. You can do 10 different causes, but your purpose is one. And these have to dovetail or ladder into your purpose. Now, when you look at this cause marketing per se, you identify which is the cause. Either it is related to the core of your business. And if it is the closer it is to the business and the more transparent you are, that I'm doing this good, but in the process, I'm also benefiting as a business because I'm not International Red Cross. It's not just a philanthropy. I'm a for-profit organization, but I also want to do good. People will appreciate you for that. Okay, but don't couch and say, oh, I'm doing it only for your good, whereas it's actually self-serving as well. Then you lose that trust. So be very careful about that. Which causes? In the past, we used to say there's a permission space. Do I have permission to play in this particular space? We took some huge bets. Unfortunately, Mastercard has been perceived to be a credit card company. Right? The fact is we don't issue a single credit card. We are a technology company that provides payments technology to banks, fintechs, and to merchants. And we connect them. We are a network. It's like, we are like it's a network basically, right? So, but then because of the strong perceptions of credit cards being associated with Mastercard, and credit cards are seen to be very exploitative because they charge high APRs and stuff like that, which we have nothing to do with. It's all the issuers of the cards who decide what rate is appropriate and so on. Now, in that kind of a scenario, we had to be extra cautious because if I do try to do something good, people will say, yeah, you're trying to do good. And on the other hand, you're taking away a lot of money on the interest rates, right? It's very easy to get into trouble. So we had to be very careful, very thoughtful, and we have been navigating it very carefully all these years, and we'll continue to do so. So in that, what we said, can we support cancer, for example? We took which are the most prevalent social issues that we want to stand up for. The first one we did was stand up to cancer. So it is basically partnering with that organization. We raised more than $54 million till now, running promotions to increase the card sales or spend on our network, and diverting a part of that return to Stand Up to Cancer Foundation, raising awareness and actually helping them with methodologies with which they bring scientists from around the world to cure diseases, different types of cancer. It typically takes 12 years for one drug to go from molecule to FDA approval. Now we have already got 7 drugs that have been approved in this short amount of time. So it is paying off in oodles for the society. My volumes are also going up, so we are grateful for that too. Both are coexisting. Same thing we did with World Food Program. So what we try to do is not to spread yourself thinly across 1,000 different initiatives, but identify a few, put your might and resources behind those few initiatives, get a deep impact, and stay consistent with them for years and years. So don't change with the new trend. I'll do this today, I'll do that tomorrow. Then nothing sticks to you.
That's really great advice. Raja, I'm seeing all these comments. I don't know if you're seeing them, but I think we're developing a fan group for you. Courtney says, favorite session, so impressed by Raja. There's a few people who want to work specifically for you. They're going to apply to Mastercard.
Please ask them to reach out to me.
There we go. So there's a question here actually that I wanted to take. It's let me see, let me find it. Oh, here we go. It's from Karen Rochinsky. And she says, one would argue marketing has changed a ton over the last decade. Curious where Raja believes things will continue to change most versus what changes are here to stay.
So marketing is in a mega state of evolution. I call the last 10 years roughly were the era of marketing 4.0. Marketing 1.0 was all about product. Marketing 2.0 was all about emotion. Marketing 3.0 was all about data. Marketing 4.0 was all about mobility and social platforms. Marketing 5.0 is just about to come. It's going to be led by artificial intelligence. It's going to be led by all the new technologies like augmented reality, virtual reality, autonomous cars, Internet of Things, wearables. You got a whole bunch of new technologies that are coming at us. It is going to totally transform marketing. What you will see as the fundamental changes in the way to market in the next 3 to 5 years is going to be cumulatively more than everything that we have seen since the beginning of marketing till now. And that's what my book is about.
Wow, that's a good plug for the book. By the way, I was getting questions about what the name of the book is and where people can find it.
I'm still trying to toy with it. It hasn't been published. I have written my first draft. I have given it to the publisher. Right. So we had to go through the editing, the cover design. We had to finalize the name for it. And I'm hoping that the public launch will be on the 9th of February, 2021. But the pre-launch, or whatever they call it, availability should be by late October this year or November.
Perfect. Sounds good. Well, everyone who's listening, please follow Raja on Twitter. Apparently, there's a new hashtag called Team Raja that's forming. So you're doing a good job of impressing people. So Raja, I know we don't have a ton of time and everyone is asking me to keep going with you for an hour if we can. I wanted to ask you, COVID has been such an accelerator for a lot of different technologies and businesses. And, in a weird sense, for some of us in the technology startup land space, it's been kind of a bittersweet because it's forced a lot of marketers to come to the realization that, storytelling or content or real-time data or AI or personalization or online events, all these things were concepts that we were saying we were all jumping into, but really we were still experimenting with. And now they're everything. And so I'm curious, what's your prediction for the things that we were doing before that will come back post-COVID, whatever post-COVID means at this point? Do you think real kind of live events are going to come back? Are we going to keep connecting, at Patao or any of these other events that we would meet at? Or are we moving completely digitally and, tuning in from the comfort of our living room?
See, I would say that people are high-touch beings. And what I mean by that is they want to be in an environment where there are other people. Unless you are a monk, you would want to be with people. You want to enjoy the emotions with people. Whether it is an outing for a dinner or it is for a football match, these are going to come back. They are essentially in the DNA of people, right? It'll happen. It'll all come back. How quickly it'll come back, what shape it'll take, it's anybody's guess. Right now, for example, already events, and we are pretty much involved in a whole bunch of sponsorships, like French Open, for example. They said they are going to have the match towards the later part of this year. I think they have announced the dates as well, French Open tennis. They said, but we will not have 100% capacity. We'll only have 30% capacity in the stadium. So those kind of adjustments will definitely happen. Will there be longer queues? Maybe. Will there be temperature checks and stuff like that? Yes. Will there be social distancing? Maybe. No. The way things might be organized could be different, but the concept itself will not disappear. I think things will come right back. Even now, I'm telling you, Cincinnati has opened up a little bit. And when you drive on the street, you see there are restaurants with people like outside the restaurants and on the pavement where they got the tables and all that, full, totally full up, right? And yes, I wonder why they're not wearing masks and why there is no social distancing whatsoever. But that's in human nature. So I would say that these events will come back with vengeance, but they manifest a little differently. And I don't know how exactly they will be.
It's interesting. I feel like there's the camp of people who think we will always be doing basically hop in online. And there's the team of people who think the exuberance and the pent-up demand is going to make us all come together and want to just see each other. And I keep switching between the two, so I don't know exactly where I'll be, but I do miss people. I think being Latin makes you want to just go, kiss people so that you feel like you're connected to them.
See, I think, it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. It's not either this or that. Digital will take a huge jump. There is no question. Even for ourselves at Mastercard, when we are looking at experiences, our whole priceless concept was to bring experiences to people that are truly unforgettable, once in a lifetime, and so on and so forth.
Right.
We pivoted very quickly to digital, and we are surprised ourselves very pleasantly how effective those digital experiences are, leveraging our physical assets. So they're sitting at home and having experience with our assets. And same thing so I think it'll be a hybrid model where things will go on steroids on the digital, but the physical world will be coming right back up.
So Raja, final question, because someone mentioned / noticed that you're wearing a smartwatch on one hand and a normal watch on the other hand. What's going on there?
I must compliment the person for the power of observation. No, so what was the question?
Well,
or was it a complaint?
The question's why? Why two watches?
Okay, so it's a very curious thing. Now, this is a watch which, my boss presented it to me.
I see.
So this is a watch essentially for blind people.
Wow.
So you can tell the time without looking at the dial. So you can feel it, okay, where exactly the hours needle is and the minutes needle is. So this is something which I feel very special about. Reminds me of the fact that my boss likes me and therefore he has given me this. And on the other hand, on a serious note, it's something which, each time you buy this watch, there is a contribution which goes to Blind Society and things like that. So I feel good about it. So I wear that. Now, this one is because I am now, during this COVID time, particularly this Apple Watch, I'm now exercising very diligently, walking a lot, actually. So this keeps the count of my stuff. It tells me when to breathe. It tells me you better stand up. So I put quite a few apps on that which tell me how I should behave throughout the day. So this is very helpful. This is a very useful kind of a thing. So that's
a great answer. That makes sense.
But that's a truthful answer.
Raja, what advice do you have for all the marketers listening that are going through everything that's going on in the world right now?
See, I would say 3 things you have to really focus on. Take care of your people. They need you. Be with them. Support them. Enable them. Absolutely critical. Number 1, most important. Number 2, more than a marketer, be a decent human being. Don't exploit your clients, your customers, your vendors, your gig workers, whoever it is. Be decent to them. Stick with them during these times of distress. They will stick with you when the good times come back. So be with them. I would say this is number 2. Number three, invest in yourself. The world of marketing is changing so dramatically. If you don't upskill, if you don't learn new things, if you don't display that learning agility, you can go obsolete pretty quickly. Don't let yourself get obsolete. And there are so many options now to keep yourself updated, up to date on whether it is AI or AR or whatever it is, the technologies or the concepts or the new developments in human psychology or neurology or in the science of sound, science of vision, whatever it is. I think it's a great opportunity to really learn. It's exciting on the one hand, but also it makes you relevant for the future. Otherwise, you can get obsolete. So please take care of yourself from that point of view and update. Keep updating your brain. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much, Raja. That was a
Thank you.
wonderful set of beliefs, and I know everyone is expressing their gratitude. So thank you, and hopefully we'll meet again soon.
Thank you very much, and then thanks everyone for having me. Much appreciated, and I look forward to meeting again soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.